New fallout tonight on some controversial comments from Hillary Clinton on the issue of gun control. When someone asked her last week about a program in Australia that involved confiscating thousands of weapons, she said that might be something worth looking at. We have a powerful message on this issue in a moment from a woman who survived one of the worst mass shootings in U.S. history. But first, Trace Gallagher with what they actually did in Australia. Trace?
Megan, when Hillary Clinton made the comment that a gun buyback program is worth considering, she added that she's not sure exactly how it would be implemented here in the U.S., but said, quoting, "The Australian government, as part of trying to clamp down on the availability of automatic weapons, offered a good price for buying hundreds of thousands of guns. That was in 1996, when more than 640,000 guns were bought back and destroyed. And it wasn't just for automatic weapons, it was for semi-automatic and pump-action shotguns and rifles. And it wasn't a voluntary program because the guns were all registered. If you failed to join in the buyback, you risked being thrown in jail for possessing an illegal weapon. The first few years after the buyback, gun deaths went down. Overall homicides went up. There have been no mass shootings since 1996, but gun ownership in Australia is now believed to be the same or higher than it was before the buyback. The National Rifle Association said this about Clinton's comment, quoting again, "This validates what the NRA has said all along. The real goal of gun control supporters is gun confiscation. Hillary Clinton's extreme views are completely out of touch with the American people." Megan.
Trace, thank you. Well, back in October of 1991, a gunman crashed his pickup truck through the window of a popular Texas restaurant and killed 24 people inside in what was described by witnesses as a, quote, methodical rampage that lasted 15 minutes. It only stopped when the gunman killed himself after being wounded by police. My guest now, Susanna Hupp, survived one of America's worst mass shootings. And she's a former Republican member of the Texas House of Representatives, where she served for 10 years. Susanna, great to see you again. And I know you lost both of your parents that day in that horrible massacre. And you yourself were carried a gun. And you used to carry it with you all the time, but not at that moment.
Well, not at that moment, because at that time in the state of Texas, it was actually illegal to carry. I was convinced to carry by an assistant DA in the Houston area. But you're right. I made a stupid decision and began leaving the gun out in my car just because I was worried about breaking the law.
Mm-hmm. And saw your parents murdered in the wake of that. And now when you hear people talk about confiscating guns, you know, despite the Second Amendment, your reaction is what?
Well, obviously anger and disbelief. I've got to tell you, I think Hillary Clinton should lead by example. I think she should disarm her entire security detail and that of her children. You know, let's see what that looks like a year from now. Let's see how well that works out. If guns are the problem, somebody needs to explain to me why we don't see these mass shootings at places where there are thousands of guns in the hands of at least hundreds of law-abiding citizens. I always think of the dreaded gun show. We don't see mass shootings at dreaded gun shows. Mm-hmm. We don't see mass shootings at NRA conventions. Mm-hmm. We see mass shootings at places where we have made guns illegal, where people can't protect themselves.
What? So, I mean, obviously, Australia, they conducted this experiment and gun deaths went down. They don't have a Second Amendment there. It's like, that's going to be a problem with her plan.
They don't have the freedom that we have.
However, let me ask you, as somebody who is a gun advocate, what do you see as a solution? Because I think many people are earnestly searching to make some change in something to lower the number of mass
homicides.
There's
always that need to do something. All right, look, to me, this is one of the most simple things in the world. Again, I kind of already said it. These mass shootings occur at places where people are not able to protect themselves. If I want to rack up a high body bag count, I'm not going to go to that gun show. I'm going to go to a university. I'm going to go to a school. I'm going to go someplace where I can be reasonably assured that I can shoot people like fish in a barrel. I mean, that's dreadful to think that way, but I can't help it. Been there, done that. And I want to know why is Hillary Clinton's child's life worth more than mine? Why does she get to have armed protection for her family, but she wants to take my armed protection away? A gun is not a guarantee.
Obviously, she's under higher threat than the average citizen, she and her family, given her status.
Well, is she? I mean, now seriously, with all of the mass shootings that we're seeing and the random killings that we're seeing, is she?
Good question. Susanna, thanks for being here.
Thank you very much for having me.
All the best. Also tonight, Judge Napolitano is here with what he thinks is the big story ahead of this week's Benghazi hearing. He's next.